At a time of such great change in Westminster, this was a day for stability and the tradition of centuries. Even the Queen hasn't reigned over a coalition government before, but she won't be fazed.
My Lords, pray be seated.
These walls, these rituals can cope with whatever complexion of Parliament the voters may throw at them. Some traditions only seem as old as time itself. Dennis Skinner's jokes, for example.
No royal commissions this week.
Then Her Majesty immediately in the House appears.
Harriet Harman joined the Prime Minister, and among those behind her are now 6 Labour MPs, hoping they will soon head the queue as Leader of the Opposition.
My Lords and members of the House of Commons, my government's legislative programme will be based upon the principles of freedom, fairness and responsibility. The first priority is to reduce the deficit and restore economic growth.
As well as the economy, the plan is to rush through major educational reforms before the summer, and constitutional changes could be far-reaching too.
Measures will be brought forward to introduce fixed-term parliaments of 5 years. A bill will be introduced for a referendum on the alternative vote system for the House of Commons, and to create fewer and more equal-sized constituencies.
Plenty to discuss then.
My Lords and members of the House of Commons, I pray that the blessing of Almighty God may rest upon your councils.
The ceremonial aspects of today's events always do show parliamentarians at their most easygoing and collegiate, perhaps appropriate given that we are currently governed by 2 parties. But Her Majesty leaves the Palace of Westminster with a body of proposed legislation that certainly is potentially controversial enough to expose cracks in the coalition.
The Leader of the Opposition, Harriet Harman.
And as the debate began, the acting Labour leader was quick to play on apparent disquiet on government backbenchers at their unexpected union.
While the happy couple are enjoying the thrill of the rose garden, the in-laws are saying that they're just not right for each other.
As those on her side of the dispatch box tend to do, Harriet Harman promised constructive opposition.
It's not progressive to scrap the Human Rights Act, pack the Lords and rig the Commons. That's not new politics.
Not much constructive in that, the Prime Minister and his deputy seemed to think, though parliamentary niceties prevailed.
Let me say how much I enjoyed listening to her speech, but I did feel there was something missing. Not one word of apology for the appalling mess that has been left in this country.
A question about the abolition of child trust funds from the Labour benches drew a fiery response from the Prime Minister.
I don't know what they're shouting about. It is a Labour government that left us with 160 billion as our budget deficit. Now, of course the child trust fund, when thought up, was a good idea, but today it means a new child being born. We are borrowing money for that child and then putting the money into that child's bank account. You broke the nation so badly, it's schemes like these that can't be continued with.
With David Cameron making the government's case, Nick Clegg, who was sat right behind him, struggled to get a look in. But in truth, he didn't miss that much. The exchanges were largely without venom. It seems that a Labour Party preoccupied with its own leadership is content to let these 2 men get on with it as best they can, and to hope it might yet unravel. Joey Jones, Sky News, Westminster.